Scholars, bringing you another banger. That's Alex Alonso and FG, aka Frank Thornton. Hey man, they said I got a little too upset on the last episode, man. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I got a few calls on it, but at the same time, man, it was just, hey, that's passion, homie.
Yeah, man, I don't think I've ever even gotten that upset
Well,
on the internet, like in the public way before.
I mean, at the same time, though, man, when somebody puts something out there that's not true, you're going to respond that way. That's just my opinion, I'm like that too, man. Don't accuse me of certain stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and if you guys are new to Streets and Scholars, go check out the last episode. I got accused. I don't know why I got accused of having fake paperwork by Vlad TV, even though the paperwork was already out there by other platforms. In fact, the paperwork isn't even on none of my platforms at all. So I don't know why, I got accused of fake paperwork. But you know what? I want to give a timeline to this whole story because I don't think people really understand how this story evolved on the internet, because it was actually occurring before you came on the scene. Because a lot of people don't know about the Boss Mac podcast that you were on just last week. About a year and a half ago, I believe it might have been in 2021, they had a guest from Campanella Park, Piru. His name was Kenzo.
No doubt.
And some people might know about Kenzo because I interviewed Kenzo a couple years ago. Me and Kenzo's, our lives actually have collided because we had a mutual friend that goes back, 15, 20 years. We both knew the same person.
Oh, okay.
And it's bizarre how me and Kenzo's life kind of overlaps. But he did an interview on the Boss Mac podcast. And I believe the Boss Mac podcast is the first place on the internet to ever talk about Mob James being a rat, snitch, and informant.
Right.
Because Kenzo knows.
Kenzo knows. Yeah. No doubt.
And somehow it came up on that show. If people can go back. In fact, I will have a link to the show notes of this episode to that actual podcast episode where Kenzo talks about it. So that's like a year and a half ago, almost two. I believe it was 2021 or 2020. But then there's a conversation on Bomb First between Whack 100 and Mob James about a year and a half ago.
Right.
Same topic,
yeah.
So this has been on the internet long before you and I did the interview.
Oh, no doubt. It was going around, and like I say, we didn't even know each other.
Correct.
So it was already out there. It's just, I believe after the interview came, it put some authenticity to it. So maybe that's why they think that's the first time they heard this, but it's been out.
And there was even a big Clubhouse conversation on it. If I remember correctly, it was a guy named Reek, CEO Reek from Trolls Nation Clubhouse. They had a whole topic on this, and you had to get pulled into the room because there were some people up there fabricating.
Yeah, they was fabricating. He was doing a pretty good job, though. Had he been, stammering and stumbling over his words, I wouldn't have paid no attention to it. But he really sounded like he kind of knew what he was talking about, but he was fabricating the whole thing,
So yeah, I don't know. I got a little, I don't know, emotional, or like, what was the word you used? Passionate.
Yeah, no doubt, but at the same time, like I say, you were accused, you know what I mean? And you have to stand on your name. You got to stand for something, man. And your name is one of them you must go hard for. Don't let nobody slander your name or bring any, falsifications to your name, especially if it's not true.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the only reason why I got upset about it, because people are just lying and fabricating about my role in it, and all I did was the interview.
No doubt, but at the same time, like you say, it's always these conspiracy theories, in everything. You know what I mean? So, people are trying to, put some things together and make it make sense, and to some people it might do, but, like I say, man, all you did was the interview.
And also, I'd like to mention that not only did Kenzo speak on this, Kenzo did a nice chunk of time in the feds, too. He got popped in 2007 on a BMF Compton Campanella Park indictment, and he probably did about the same amount of time that you did.
Yeah, no doubt. Kenzo fell on that case, man, and, had to go walk that walk. So, he feel the same way about I do when it comes to these dudes, these street dudes. You know what I mean? reporting crimes.
Definitely. So, yeah, go check out that last episode, man. I'm gonna try to do my best not to talk about this subject anymore. But hey, if it comes up, it comes up, and I'm gonna go in on it.
No doubt, no doubt.
You know what? You was right about Mozzy, man. You said something about he got arrested probably on state charges. They probably picked him up on Fed charges. Check this out. I did a little digging, and he got arrested in Culver City, as we mentioned last week, on the gun case, and the city attorney declined to declined to enforce it, or file charges against him. So they turned it over. It says here the district attorney's office rejected the rapper's case and referred it to the local U.S. attorney's office, which are the feds.
Yeah, that's how they do it.
And it said the U.S. Marshals picked him up at an unrelated court appearance in Vegas, and then arrested him there and charged him for the gun case in Culver City. That's kind of messed up. If L.A. County said, we're not interested in it. Are you interested in the U.S. Attorney's Office? Yeah, we're interested in that. What's that all about?
Hey man, that's how they do it, and it only happens for specific people, and because I've seen it happen, and if your name is rambling around on them feds' desk anywhere, the state attorney will be like, nah, I'm good. Refer it to the feds, and they'll definitely pick it up. And it's messed up how they pick and choose who they gonna do that to, though.
Yeah, because he would have. He was really out on that case. He was really out on that case, and it went to. Actually, remember we talked about it was a $35,000 bail when he got arrested in the Culver City. It turned into a $1 million bail when he got arrested by the feds.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So he bonded out, which is that's a little nothing for him.
Yeah, I'm sure he has some property or something worth that. Yeah.
So that was interesting that he got picked up by the feds after the LA County declined to prosecute it. So I'm looking at this case a little bit more shady now.
Well, it all depends. I mean, like I said, I've seen it done numerous times. So it's not so shady to me, because I've seen it happen, and two dudes with the same backgrounds. One get popped, they refer it to the feds, the other one go to the state. You know what I mean? So I don't know how they pick and choose on who they want to send over there. And that's the one thing I've always said, that I don't ever want to get caught with a firearm, because I really believe that they're going to, refer it over to the feds. And, you got to go answer them feds again.
Well, one of the reasons why I look at this a little shady, because the more I read about this, I see that they're more critical of everything. They even judged Mozzy for being positive for marijuana, which is something that I don't want to say everybody,
right.
A whole lot of people smoke it. It's legal in most places, but the prosecutors made a big deal that he tested positive for marijuana while on pretrial release, and he asked the judge to impose drug counseling for Mozzy because he had weed in the system.
Yeah, no doubt. But see, the one thing about it is they don't want you to be under the influence when you on this pretrial, or even when you get caught with a firearm. They try to make a big deal out of it because they feel you high. You don't know how to handle a firearm.
Yeah.
And I've seen them try that tactic before, but that's crazy.
Yeah, I could understand that. Mozzy's lawyer tried to bring up his past growing up in the projects, coming up in poverty, not having a stable family, all the things that a lot of people go through. And the judge said, none of that gives him an excuse to carry a gun. I don't care about none of that stuff.
None of that stuff. Yeah.
So, they gave him the year and a day, I guess. And he almost would have beat the case if it wasn't for the LA County District Attorney's Office turning it over to the U.S. Attorneys. Because look, if the District Attorney's Office doesn't turn it over to the U.S. Attorneys, if they just do a normal DA reject, the U.S. Attorney's Office knows nothing about it.
No doubt. No doubt about it at all. So they had to put that call in.
But why put that call in?
Well, here's Mozzy. He's a gangster rapper. You know what I mean? He talk about bodies, and he raps about street things that we like to hear. As far as rapping is concerned, they may view that in a negative light, though. They may take it as this kind of music fuel gang violence. So let's go get this dude and show him that we got something for him. Not to mention, he just really may have beat that case in the state. Even if they wouldn't have gave him a DA reject, he probably could have beat that case.
But as you said last week, if he would have went to the States, he probably would have got a little bit more than a year.
Well, he should have because somebody DM'd me and said they was in. I didn't think Mozzy had been to the pen before. Somebody DM'd me and said they was in Quentin with Mozzy. You know, they didn't say what the case, what he was there for. They say they ran into Mozzy and Quentin. So that's a penitentiary. You know, that's a pen. So obviously he has some sort of record, but at the same time, yeah, I don't know why they did that because I know he should have got. You know what I mean? Seemed like you usually go with 2, 3, and 5 on them gun cases, and in the state if you get found guilty on them. So I don't know what their logic was on that.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring that up because you actually said that Mozzy hadn't been to prison in episode 25.
I did say that,
and
yeah.
I did a little digging, and I did find out he did a couple of years back in the day. So that's from episode 25.
Right. And actually, what I did say is I was unsure.
Yeah.
But I didn't think he had, but I wasn't sure. Yeah.
So that's so that actually brings up another question. The ex-felon with a gun, federal case, only 1 year in prison.
Yeah, it does bring up a question, and like I say, I believe he had that simple possession, but it's still an ex-con with a firearm. I don't know how the feds work on the ex-con with the fire. I know how the state work. Like I say, 2, 3, and 5. That's pretty much what you're looking at. Federal wise, I don't know what the guidelines are on a simple possession with a prior. It seemed like that prior would have put some weight on the case and made you get more time.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That he would have got more time, but there was no other crime associated with him having the gun. So I'm just guessing it was a simple possession. I'm not. I hope there's no other funny business going on with this case. I'm just thinking that simple possession. He had weed. That's not a big deal. You were cooperative. You came to all your court appearances. The DA in LA rejected the case. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. We'll just give you the year.
Well, that's the thing about it. One thing for sure, 2 things for certain. If it's any ever faulty business, the streets gonna find out. Somebody gonna dig up in there. You Mozzy, people want to know. The sentence don't sound normal. Now everybody hasn't had simple gun possessions and went to the feds with them too. I haven't had one, so I don't know all the ramifications of how they work it. But at the end of the day, man, you can't get around faultiness. I just don't believe he went that route because he know to get out.
Yeah.
That's just me.
Yeah.
And people call me biased and say, you know what I mean? Because I heard somebody come in on the comments and say, we don't want to hear nothing else about T.I. You know what I mean? But it was a little different with T.I.,
Hey, T.I. and Mozzy got the same sentence, but T.I.'s gun case was over the top.
Over the top, man. He had multiple weapons, he had a lot of stuff on him, so I did hear somebody come in and say that, but at the end of the day, this is the stuff that's going to make people go digging into that case to see exactly what went on.
Yeah, most definitely, man. So yeah, that was a fact check from episode 22. Mozzy has been to the penitentiary before, and in terms of Boss Mac being the first platform to talk about Mob James as a rat, that's a fact check from episode 26. I'll have a link to that episode with Big Kenzo from Campanella, and. Any last thoughts on Mozzy before we move on to our first topic?
No, you say you up in Atwater, right?
Yeah, he in Atwater.
Yeah, so hey man, you walk your walk, man, and you be home soon.
And I believe we said most likely the camp, not the USP.
Being that he been to the pen before, I'm having second thoughts.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
'Cause those points go up.
Yeah, those points go up. That do mean something. So,
yeah.
Like I say though, he still could be over there at the camp with that kind of time, and it's been a minute since I believe he been to the pen, so I don't know how they played that one out.
Yeah, I think Mozzy is like one of the only rappers that I really think, as a gangster rapper, comes closer to that lifestyle than any other rapper.
Me too. That's why I'm definitely giving it. Like I said, I know I'm sounding biased.
Yeah.
But at the same time, man, for me knowing and the homies messing with him personally up there in Oak Park and, things of that nature, man, he definitely know the rules.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, man, I mean, hey, it can happen. But I would put my money that, you know what I mean, he kept a tight ship, you know what I mean, and kept it solid. But in this world, we done already realized that it can happen.
I noticed that it's harder for rappers who actually really live that life to blow up. The more popular mainstream rappers that rap that life necessarily didn't live that life.
No doubt, but when Mozzy came through, man, I remember he came through, man, and he was really on just strictly hood shit. he probably never thought that he would get this big.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he kept it true to what he believed in, kept it true to his real gangster rap, you know. And he got successful. Got enough money to be able to move his family out the hood, take care of his, you know, his family. I commend that all day long.
Yeah, I also put Trey D in that category too. And if I'm missing some other rappers, forgive me. I can't think of any, but Trey D definitely lived the lifestyle that he rapped.
No doubt. You know, I was actually super proud of Trey D. Yeah. You know what I mean? The last time I ran into Trey D, I was with we was at they had a big concert out in Irvine somewhere. I was with Tony Lane, and we was on stage with Quick, and I ran into Trey D, and you know, me and Trey D had the same lawyer, Frank DiGiacomo.
Is that right?
Yeah. So you know, me and Trey D, you know, matter of fact, he got his time right when I got mine. So Frank was picking back and forth on, you know, on our stuff.
So you was fighting your Fed case when he was fighting the state case.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know,
same time.
Same time. Yeah.
In 04, huh?
Oh, yep. And so, but then I ran into Trey D at the concert, you know, and Trey D definitely, homie, I was proud of him because I didn't think he was gonna be able to pull that off rapping, because you know he was real street dude. You know what I mean? So I was proud of him, man. And they had some hits, man. You know,
yeah,
Eastsiders, they had some hits, yeah,
definitely. So yeah, I'm not sure I'm sure there's probably some more rappers that have lived that lifestyle that I'm not thinking.
No, yeah, don't let us start thinking, because it's a lot of them out there. Actually, we just, you know what I mean.
I just don't want to miss any. I'm sure people gonna hit me up and be like, "What about this person?"
Exactly. That's why I say I'm not going to even attempt to think of, because I know it's really some real ones out there.
But Mozzy and Trey D definitely come, you know, are easy ones to put in that category. But yeah, maybe we'll do an episode on that. But hey, I wanted to talk about this the Atlanta not LAPD, APD pull over these two people in the park. Looked like a couple, a guy and a girl. And they were there. I guess they violated a city ordinance of being in the park after hours.
Yeah.
And then they wanted them to sign a ticket to pay for a fine. The guy signed it, the girl didn't, and it escalated into a huge thing. Did you see that video?
You know what? See, the first time I saw it, I saw a partial video.
Yeah.
I only saw what she was saying, I'll sign it, and he was grabbing her and all that type of stuff, and I was like, man, this is wrong. Then I seen the whole video.
Yeah.
You know, because I was led to believe that just from the first video I saw that he wouldn't give up his badge number and all the information that she was asking for. Come to find out, when I saw the full video, he had gave her his badge number a couple times, told her his name, all that stuff. You know what I mean? So to me, you know, this was one of the times, man, dude cooperated in what he was doing, and she played tough. And it was time to be tough. She didn't want to be tough no more, but it was too late by then.
Yeah, there's an interesting, the Atlanta Police Department released the body cam footage of it. And I guess they released it because they know that once they release the body cam, it's going to make the cops look good and make this girl
no doubt.
look, I don't know, I guess she was very uncooperative. But let me play it. The whole video clip is about 38 minutes, but let me play a couple of minutes for the people who don't know. Let's see if I can cue this up.
All right, just stand by. I'll be right back with you.
So she just gave the cop her ID, and he's about to run it. I'm gonna play this. It says here they have clipped a portion of this video where the police returns to his car with her ID.
All right, sir, like I explained to you, you can't be in the park at night. Everyone's going to receive a simple ticket stating that you was in the park at night. All right, you sign right in the hand.
What am I signing over? Is it a charge or anything? Or
It's just a ticket.
And I have to sign it?
You cannot sign and go to jail. It's this one here. This one here. Yes, sir. All right, that's your license. Copy of citation. Do you have any questions?
That's what it is.
Come over here for me, ma'am. Can you come here, ma'am? All right, so you're gonna receive a ticket for being in the park after hours. All right, just need to sign right on the X.
But because we're out of, did you say we're out of time, so we wouldn't have known that?
Yeah, but that's not a valid reason why you should be in the park because you're from out of town.
And what's your back number?
7452.
What's your name?
Officer Brooks.
What's your first name?
I'm not gonna give you my first name.
Okay, and I don't have to sign this, right?
You do have to sign it.
No, I don't.
Okay,
Like
right when
explained
she
to him,
said
if you
no, I
sign
don't.
it, you're gonna be physically taken to jail.
Gotcha.
So you're refusing to sign?
What's your name?
Officer Brooks, 7452.
At this point, she's trying to type his information in her
What's the
cell
back
phone.
number?
I gave it to you 2 times, man,
Okay, I'm asking again.
and I'm not giving it to you.
Okay.
Are you gonna sign it?
No, because I want your badge number.
Sorry. You wanna put your hands behind your back for me?
No, she got.
Hey, listen, my man. She said she's not signing it. Put your hands behind your back.
Sir,
Ma'am.
you're hurting me.
Okay. I'm asking you to put your hands behind your back.
Sir,
Put your hands behind your back.
sir.
Yeah, put your hand behind your back.
Can you-
Come on. I need you to back up.
I'm just saying.
I need you to back up.
You don't need to touch her like that.
She's not putting her hands behind her back.
I'm asking a question.
Okay.
I'm just all I'm doing is
Put your hands
asking.
behind your back. Put your hands behind
Mr.
you. You're
Brooks?
under arrest. Put your hands behind your back. I asked you to
Okay,
sign the
so
ticket.
at
You
this
told me you're not
point-
signing it.
But, sir,
Put your
She starts to act crazy after this point. And in my experience, once the police officer says you are arrested and you're going to jail, there is nothing to reverse that process.
Right.
It is a wrap. You're going to jail. It's not like she can convince him to change his mind at that point.
Right.
And it seems like the video goes on and she's basically saying, okay, I'll sign. But at that point, it's too late.
No doubt, and this gonna sound fucked up, but at the same time, Alex, people don't realize how many people done got shot because when a officer say, put your hands behind your back, you're going to jail. What are you fighting with the cop for? That's for I've seen this too many times when the homies want to act crazy and the dude, you going to jail, homie. You are you scared to go? Are you but she made this bed for herself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the whole part about it is now you want to talk about you hurting me, you doing this, and dude just say, if you put your hands behind your back, I'm gonna do this pretty much, you know what I mean? He seemed like a stand-up dude as far as the procedures he was going by. On the flip side, though, bro, why is you giving them a ticket, homie, for being in the park? What happened to a warning, man? What happened to, hey, man, look, y'all ain't supposed to be up here. Y'all gonna get on. You know what I mean? Unless something was said slick when he first approached him, but at the same time, dude, why you writing a ticket for a motherfucker being in the park, man, at the hours? Give him a warning, tell him don't do it no more, tell him bounce. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it did seem like a minor violation that didn't warrant a ticket. Usually cops just roll through, shine their lights and say, hey, get out of here.
Yeah.
Roll out. The park's closed. But they decided to give them a ticket for whatever reason. Maybe the city's low on money. Maybe this is a revenue generator for them. They got to meet a certain quota. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I don't think the cops were out of line. I don't think they were disrespectful. I think they were doing their job as best as they could. And I think he conducted himself as a professional.
No doubt he did, but it just made me mad when, because she could have got herself hurt. You know what I mean? Next thing you know, you falling all on the ground, you doing all this, ma'am, you still going to jail, and it was a ticket for being in the park after hours. It didn't say lewd act on it. It didn't say none of that. It said a ticket for being in the park after hours. Take that ticket, go pay the fine. Probably don't even have to show up for court and let that be. Now you got a whole situation. Your knee probably hurt. Your blood pressure probably then went up. And now you're in a jail cell,
Yeah.
with a bail.
And usually, and this is a good advice for young folks, once that police officer says you're under arrest, you're going to jail, there's really nothing you can say to reverse that. Even if you're right and they're wrong, just go to the jail. If you're right and they're wrong, they'll probably release you right after they book you.
Right.
So it's really, there's no reason to resist at that point. There was a part in the video, if you watch the whole thing, and I'm sure most people didn't watch the whole 30-something minutes, the cop pulls out his taser because he cannot get her other arm around to handcuff her. She's got it underneath.
Yeah.
And she is, holding on to dear life with that other arm so she doesn't get it cuffed. And he's like, all right, I'm pulling out my taser. You're about to get tased. and anything after that could happen. He could pull out his gun and end up start shooting.
I mean, no doubt. That's why I say sometimes, people make the situation worse. But I also believe that some people who are regular citizens don't understand, you know what I mean? Just don't, because I see it so much. I'm starting to think that they just don't understand. Even with guys and dude, we like, put your hands behind your back, and they don't want to put their hands behind the back. Now they wrestling with the cop. Now you're on the ground with a knee in your back. When you going to jail anyway. You know what I mean? So, I do question that sometimes.
Yeah. Well, eventually they got her. They got her into custody. They got her cuffed. I think another cop had to come. It's crazy. What do you think about how difficult it was for a man that was bigger than her and stronger than her to get her into custody? Like, he could not do it. He couldn't get that other arm around.
Well, see, this the thing about it. That's why I say he played it smart. He could have got that other arm around.
Yeah.
It just, he would have had to do some things and now that could have warranted, he didn't have to do that from the public's eye. But in reality, no, this is what I had to do to get this other arm around. Because if she was a suspect in a serious case, he would have got that other arm around. But it would have also warranted, okay, this was a murder suspect. This was attempted murder suspect. It would have been justified easy. You know what I mean? But just being that it was a ticket, for him to use that kind of force, it wouldn't have seemed right. So he was trying to, be delicate as he can, and this wasn't a serious situation. I mean, it was a ticket for being in the park after an hour.
And here's another thing that people don't think about, from the police officer's perspective. He also has another guy that's not in custody, that's with her, that you don't know what he's going to do.
No doubt.
So he's in the back of his mind. He's like, I got this other motherfucker over here.
Yeah.
I'm trying to take her into custody.
Right.
I got this guy in my ear. And from his perspective, he doesn't know what's going to happen.
No doubt. I mean, he out there on the job. He out there, you don't know what's, like you say, you trying to turn your back to do this, but you got to stay back. Like he telling the dude, get back, man. Dude, get back. But it seemed like the dude would have been telling this girl, baby, just put your arms around you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just stop fighting the dude.
That's a great point, actually, because not once, if I remember correctly, I'll fact check myself on this next week, but not once does he say, "Hey, baby, relax. Just
I didn't hear him say that.
Just go to jail. Just
Exactly. I'll be right down there to get you. Yeah. You be out in 12 hours. Less than that, but you can get out technically in 12.
Yeah, because now you have a resisting offense.
Now you have a resisting offense. You know what I mean? And people don't think how they rack up the charges, or if you let something slip out your mouth, now you got a terrorist threat. That bill high as a mug.
Yeah, I think bro should have been telling his girl, if that was his girl.
Right.
I don't know if it was girl. We don't even know what they was doing in the park late at night, posted up in the car, but he should have been giving her some better advice.
He should have told her, just sign the shit. Hey, man, just sign the shit. It's a ticket, man. You know what I mean? But like you say, if it was some sneaky link shit and she didn't want to be linked to the park, at that time of night, you know what I mean, where she supposed to been somewhere else, that's maybe why she was really trying to get out. You never know, you know what I mean? But now you all on the news, whatever was going on, you worldwide now, you know.
So you saying maybe that's somebody's wife and she wasn't supposed to be there.
She ain't trying to, they had no links to this situation.
She's about to have a ticket mailed to the house, being at the park late at night.
Exactly. Who the fuck you was in the park with? You know what I mean?
But she done made it worse now.
Oh, shit. It's over. It's over now. Shit.
Yeah. So, any last thoughts on that, man? I got one more topic I want to talk to you about before we wrap this up. But I can't even find this girl's name because I definitely like putting their people's names out there that we're talking about.
Nah, I usually be like, cops is super aggressive. They be on some bullshit. Like I said, only thing I feel that, damn, a ticket for being in the park. Like I said, I don't know all the circumstances of that, but once they was gonna get the ticket, man, I'm signing the ticket and going about your business.
Hey, I like the fact that Atlanta has a lot of black cops.
No, I do too. You know what I mean? And, sometimes they understand us. You know what I mean? So, sometimes it's easy for them to police the community because they understand the situation. They don't take everything as serious. They understand, get it. But at the same time, they still got a job to do. But it's just on this one, man, I don't ride with the cops like that. But on this one, I don't believe he was foul on that.
Nah, the officer's name is Bill Brooks, and he's a 6-year veteran. He got hired in 2016. So, he's been around for a minute. He knows how to do his job at 6 years in. And, I can't pull up this girl. Oh, Is this her name right here? No, the brother's name was LaMarcus Griffin. Mm-hmm. No, not my bad. That's a whole nother
Something
story.
else. Well, for people who don't know, Alex, because some people really don't know that you can be arrested for not signing a ticket.
Definitely.
A ticket is not admission of guilt. It's admission that, we're going to go through this process to find out if you're guilty. And some people just, no, I'm not signing it based on, because the situation could not be true. And it's hard to sign a ticket when, I didn't commit that offense in my mind, But you can't be taken into custody if you don't sign a ticket, for people that don't know.
Yeah, the signing the ticket just means you agree to show up to court
Right.
on whatever date that you got to go to court on. It doesn't admit guilt, so there's no way out of signing that ticket. There's no way. So I don't even know. Obviously, this girl has not really had a lot of experience dealing with the police, getting tickets, going to jail. I guess it was all new to her, and she didn't know how to handle it. Mm-hmm. So, all right. I wanted to talk to you about this other topic, man. This is a tragic situation where this brother was dating this white girl. I guess she was a social media influencer. She was real famous on OnlyFans, and they had a tumultuous relationship. They had footage of them fighting in an elevator, which happened not too long ago. But recently they got into it. I think it was in April earlier this year, and she ended up stabbing him in the shoulder.
Right.
And bro died from, I don't know if he got stabbed in the back of the shoulder or the front of the shoulder, but usually shoulder injuries don't lead to death. But I guess she hit a vital vein or artery, and bro died. And they just charged her with a second-degree murder, I think they hit her with.
No doubt. You're talking about Courtney Clenney is her name.
Courtney Clenney.
And she, is an OnlyFans model. She did other things too, but at the same time, the thing I had a problem with about this situation, Alex, was she called the police. The police came. She's covered in blood. They take her down to the station, take a statement. 48 hours, she out of there. Now what she told them, I don't know, but damn, 48 hours? You know what I mean? And it was apparent that you stabbed this guy, and I hate to always look at things or believe things are black and white, But I'm just thinking if it was a black woman and it was a white boy, she would have been out in 48 hours,
No, I don't think there's no way that would have happened.
And like I say, I don't always like to put it in that context, but they let her go. They end up changing it to believing it was a homicide. Still didn't go pick her up, and then recently when picked her up, and I just thought that was strange, man.
Well, I do think that the idea of white privilege does come into play here. I know that term is thrown around a lot in a lot of different situations, sometimes correctly, sometimes incorrectly, but there's no way that she should have been released 48 hours later when it turns out that she clearly is the aggressor. She clearly attacked this man. She has a history, and perhaps maybe the police at the time didn't have the footage from that elevator that shows how aggressive she is. But she's clearly, I guess, an unstable type of girlfriend that likes to fight and argue, and she took it to the highest level.
No doubt, and she used to punching on him because if you ever get the check out the video clip of them in the elevator, she's punching on him then, and he turns his back on her. So I'm wondering if when they stabbed her, she stabbed him, did he do that similar move, turn his back on her, you know what I mean? And she hit him with the knife. But it was definitely a tragic situation, man. The crazy part about it is the police was called out to their apartments on April 1st. April 3rd, this man was dead. So they had a clear history of domestic violence going on in their relationship.
Yeah, I wonder if they also looked at it as, oh, the boyfriend's black, therefore he must have been the aggressor, just automatically.
No, but let me tell you this. When they showed up for the domestic violence on April 1st, no one went to jail. Most of the time, somebody's going to jail. You know what I mean? So maybe she said that he did something, but she didn't have no marks or anything like that, so they didn't have enough to take him, because usually you going to jail. Somebody going to jail. And he was a big dude compared to her. So he could have easily just choked her out, slapped her up. So apparently, with her not having any marks on the first, he wasn't doing that, And sure enough, come around on the third, she stabs this man.
What do you think about the footage in the elevator? Because it could be looked at two ways. He's definitely a non-aggressive type of guy because she hit him even in the face, in the head, multiple times, and nothing pissed him off to the point where he got aggressive. He just kept on like pushing her, holding her, pushing her, holding her.
Right.
Where in, most people I know,
My situation, shit, wouldn't have went like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You would know, don't put your hands on me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like I say, I don't believe in, hitting women or nothing like that. But at the same time, don't put your hands on me. You put your hands on me, I'm going to respond. I'm going to react. You're going to know not to do it again. And, as it may sound, that's just how it really is. Don't put your hands on me. And a whole lot of people I know, they not finna just take no abuse from anybody. That's just how it is, But it was clear she was used to punching on him. And the problem is, say if they would have got this video, and even in the video, if this was him hitting her in the video, say if he didn't die, right? Somehow they got this video of him hitting her the exact way she was hitting him, they would go arrest him. You know what I mean? Now, I know they probably got this video later, but at the same time, had they didn't, they still wouldn't have went and arrested her, and that's where the bullshit come in at. That's what I be talking about, So you can't have it both ways, man,
Well, here's a tough question. This is a tough question. I don't even know if I could answer this question, but is there ever a time where a woman deserves to get hit by a man?
Oh, no doubt. You know what I mean?
You didn't waste any time.
No, because I could imagine somebody spitting on me.
Yeah.
I could imagine a woman spitting on me. You know what I mean? And I'm not going to be able to hold that reaction. And I'll stand there and wait for the police to come.
Yeah.
But you're not going to spit on me. You're not going to hit me, period. You know what I mean? Now, don't get me wrong. Say if, I'm trying to break up another domestic dispute and the woman swing on me when I'm trying to break it up. That's a little something different. You know what I mean? But just genuinely just walking up to me, or we being in a relationship and you come up and fire on me, and that's not going to happen. Keep your hands to yourself and we'll all be well. But I don't believe that men should be hitting. I don't believe women should be hitting me, and I don't believe men should be hitting women. This ain't the 50s where it was acceptable and, you didn't go to jail for it. Now, look, man, you got to hit a female, man. It's time to walk away. It's time to leave that alone, and some women like that, though. They don't believe you love them unless you tugging on them, slapping on them, choking them a little bit. They like some of that aggressive shit.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's a double-edged sword, man, because it could turn around and bite you, and you'll be in a lot of trouble, man. Hitting these women.
I think the late great Nina Simone gave an interview once where she talked about her husband used to beat the shit out of her, and she said something to the lines. I'm definitely not quoting her, but she definitely said she found a little bit of pleasure in it.
I mean, well, Ike, supposedly was whipping Tina ass, and back in them days, man, people turned a blind eye to it.
I don't think Tina was enjoying. I don't think
Tina enjoyed it one bit.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, I'm talking about the difference in today's society. A lot of people go back to them super, super old days. Our great grandparents, because of the situation, it wasn't like it is today. The laws weren't in place, the knowledge wasn't in place, and so nowadays, man, like I say, if you believe you're in a situation with a woman that you have to use physical violence, I believe you shouldn't be in that relationship.
Yeah. Okay. How about at the workplace? I don't know if you saw this video. It was at the airport. A black dude was working in the airlines. It was a white woman too. She was all in his face, pointing, and then eventually she hit him, and he took her down to the ground. And the airlines put him on temporary suspension for. They said, we do not tolerate any levels of violence at the workplace. But it looked like you could say self-defense, but then at the same time, some people will say, well, that was a woman though.
Right. And he might have put the extras on it, but disrespect, man, is disrespect. Because I believe if he'd have took his finger and pointed at her and pushed her nose or pushed her forehead, they would have fired him.
Yeah.
And they would have took it a lot more. I mean, still might have been arrested. That's still a simple assault. That's how they would have looked at it. Now, if a female did that, it's just messed up, because they would have been like, oh, man, she just, all she did was push your nose or push your forehead, but it's on the other foot, you going to jail. Nowadays, what I can say, though, is women are going to jail, too, nowadays. When they get called out for them domestic violence, if he got scratches on him, too, shit, you going, too, down. So it's not a one-way street no more like it used to be,
Yeah, we talked about that in that Indianapolis case, man, where the girlfriend ran her boyfriend over in the parking lot outside the restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to bring the people an update on that one, but yes, it looks like she's going to be going to prison. But let me play a little clip from this case that we're talking about. The brother's name is Christian Obumseli. I think he's an African dude.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see if this will. Let me cue this up.
Has she been charged? Local 10 Sanella Sabo.
Here we go.
Live with details on this. Sanella.
The big question is here, was this done in self-defense? Miami police investigators say that this is an ongoing and very active investigation. Meantime, we spoke with a group of friends that knew this couple very well, and they detail a rocky relationship.
It's just heartbreaking. Everyone is just so devastated.
This trio was very close to 27-year-old Christian Obumseli and his girlfriend, who they've identified as 25-year-old Courtney Clenney, an OnlyFans model and Instagram influencer. So when police reported that Obumseli was fatally stabbed by Clenney on Sunday inside their Miami apartment, the friends were left speechless. They portray a very violent relationship at the hands of only one person.
I've seen her hit him. I've never seen him hit her.
Officers say there was... Tonight, there are many...
Okay, they said, we've seen her hit him, but we never seen him hit her.
And this was a friend of hers or somebody she knew. Yeah.
So if the prosecutors are going to prosecute this fairly, she should be going to prison.
Man, she ain't finna do nothing, man. They finna give her a manslaughter with a 2-year sentence. And I don't got it going. I don't got her chipping her off like that.
Well, yeah, she's probably going to get the best attorney that money can buy in Miami. They're going to fight for, like you said, a manslaughter. I think the state of Florida probably would like to get a second-degree murder. I think that if the state goes hard enough, they'll get that second degree.
I mean, but they should. I mean,
Yeah.
like I said, I don't know. I wasn't there. Don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, man, she murdered this dude,
Well, there's some great attorneys in Florida.
And not to mention, I'm sure when they had her there that night, they examined her and didn't see any marks. If they didn't see any marks, that says a lot. How were you assaulted? If where did he assault you? Did he grab your? We don't see no bruises, no marks. How were you assaulted? If that's the case, they took off. Trust me, they did their due diligence on that part.
Well, it's a good chance that he got stabbed while he was sleeping, laying down.
No, it's definitely a good chance. I mean, I just that's the part I'm curious of. What was he doing when she stabbed him? For some reason, that's just a question that I would like to, if I can get answered. What was he actually doing?
Well, I believe that what she did was probably reaches the level of second degree murder. At least in California, that's second degree. I wouldn't call it a first degree, even though California prosecutors will file that first degree.
They'll file it quick, but it has to be premeditated. That maybe wasn't premeditated.
Well, we don't know because let's say they got evidence that they got into an argument at the club because he looked at a girl.
Right.
She's mad from the club, and now they're back at the apartment an hour later. They can use the anger that was that started at the club to what happened in the apartment, sometime later, an hour and a half later, and say this was premeditated. She was mad at him from the club. She was a jealous girlfriend, and she had a pattern of abusing him anytime she thought he was doing something wrong. And on this night, ladies and gentlemen, she knew that if he did something wrong again, she was going to kill him.
No, it's got to sound great.
And they'll be like, damn, this bitch playing this shit all day.
No doubt, but like you say, they gotta win over them jurors.
Yeah. But I don't know how Florida law does it. But she's lucky she ain't in California because they would definitely file it as a first degree murder, and you got to fight for that second degree. But I think they filed it as a second degree in Florida. So we'll see, man.
Yeah, we got to stay on top of that one.
Yeah, we'll definitely stay on top of it. What was her name again?
Courtney Clenney.
Courtney Clenney. Courtney Clenney. What do you think about interracial dating? Because sometimes I think that the problems of not understanding each other's culture arise from interracial dating, especially when this dude is African, this girl's white American. Their worlds never really would come together, and normally. So they must have had a big cultural gap between the two.
Well, the thing about it is this: I'm gonna be the first and foremost to say that I don't frown upon when I see people doing it.
You don't do mental daggers like Spike Lee does.
Well, I mean, we all do. I believe we all do that.
I
you
think
know,
he admitted that.
No, we all do, but at the same time, like I say, I don't have a deep down, per se hatred or nothing that when I see it, it's just something I've never done. I've never dated outside my race, and I don't want that to sound, crazy, but I just, I've always liked black women, and that's just how it was for me. And but I do wonder when I see him, what's the communication barrier like? What's the, how, I mean, I guess the humans, I know that, but I'm just saying, with the cultures being different, and then you see these relationships where they get to disrespecting each other races in these relationships and they stay in the relationship. Yeah. Hold on, you can't call me a nigga, and you white, you a white girl, you can't get, and we cool no more. Yeah. That just ain't how it rock, bro.
Yeah, man, I wonder if interracial dating will be an issue in this case. I don't know. It always stands out to me. I remember I was up in Victoria, Canada, years ago, and I was surprised at how many. I guess we used to call them jungle fevers. That word is not used anymore, huh?
I haven't heard that in years. Because like you say, at the end of the day, well, you still have to look at statistically though, Alex. When you get to talking about the black men. And I'm hearing a lot of people, females, black women starting to say, I'm finna start dating outside my race. I'm finna start dating outside my race because the quality of black man that they looking for, maybe they can't find. He's out there, but they just maybe can't find. So they think they want to go outside their race and try something different. But at the same time, it's not always what, it's other obstacles, when it comes to those interracial relationships, and I've never been in one. And, so I wouldn't technically know, but I can see from the outside looking in that, but at the end of the day, man, love is love though, Alex. You can't stop somebody from loving the next person no matter what they are. I see people love that. I got friends that love their dogs more than they love me. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, and I've been around 20 years before the dog, so love is love, bro,
Yeah, some people be treating their dogs like human beings in the house.
Hey, you better stay away from that one, man.
That's a red flag. If you look, every woman I've met that not only had a dog, but treated their dog like a human being. They even gave their dog human names. I knew this girl, her dog's name was Charlie. Yeah. I was like, why'd you name your dog Charlie? But they treat them like a kid, a child, a son.
Oh, no doubt. I see it already. They got what's those carrying cases for them, man? They got all the different shampoos for them, man. They got sweaters, and like I say, the thing about it is, I'm not saying this to talk down on nobody. I just haven't had love for a pet like that. Yeah. You know what I mean? I haven't felt that type of love before in a pet, but these people obviously really. Did you hear about the lady left $33 million to the trust, but it was for the dog. Whoever was taking care of the dog was gonna get the money. You know what I mean? And it was crazy, bro.
Nah, man. Hey, that's a red flag if you meet a girl that has a dog that she loves more than humans, and the dog has a human name. Man, get out of there as soon as you can.
As soon as you can.
Yeah, bro. She's undateable. Yeah. I'm just kidding, but man, this Courtney Clenney case is crazy, man. I'm gonna stay on top of it, man. I'm thinking of actually flying out to a couple of these cases, man, that are out of California, man, because I just like to be there in person just to witness it and see the court proceedings. Because, man, I'm actually fascinated by the the whole trial process, if it goes that far, which we'll see. But any last words, FG, before we wrap this up?
We're gonna wrap this up. We're supposed to get on Mystical. We're gonna catch you next week.
Let me see here. I don't know if we got enough time to get on Mystical. What do you think?
Hey, man, it's
you want to speak a little bit about it?
I mean, it's just tragic that the brother going through what he going through, but at the end of the day, man, it seemed like he got priors. I mean, it's hard not to, see, and that's the thing about it, because the one part I wanted to touch on was this. When you in the street, or you in life, or you at the job, or you in anywhere, if you have a reputation for doing certain things, that one time you might not do something, people are going to still think you did it. And I'm not saying this is him in his situation, but I know he was convicted back in 2003, the sexual assault. He did the 6 years. In 2017, he was arrested again. He did 18 months, and the charges were dropped. And now you back again with another one. It's hard for society to roll with you, bro. Just based on, you seem like a career sexual assaulter,
But none of these have minors involved, right?
No, none of these have minors involved, but at the end of the day, he looking at a life sentence on this one.
Well, let me ask you this: when I noticed this when it comes to blacks and sexual offenses, they don't really trip if it's a non-minor sexual offense. When you get to the prison and when you deal with the politics, am I right about that, or can you still be looked at sideways for sexual offenses against adults?
No, the people ain't just really tripping off like that because you got so many different dynamics. You know what I mean? So sometimes a dude be in jail, man. He been messing with this girl for 2 years already, and she finally called and put a case on him, and he's in jail. It's tragic, but it does happen, and we really know that what really happened. If you did assault her that one, dude, you been messing with this girl 2 years. So it's not looked at that at all when it's an adult.
So how should we look at Mystical? Because I remember his 2003 case that you just mentioned that he got 6 years on. I thought it was crazy that he got mad at a girl that worked for him for stealing. I think she stole like $40,000 or some stuff out of the account, and he made her suck his dick basically,
right,
for stealing my money.
Right,
get on your knees, and of course she called the police, and that was a sexual assault. So, okay, he did 6 years for that. That's a lot of time, though, right? For forcing a girl to give you a blowjob?
Yeah, I mean, shit, especially one that owe you $40,000. Shit, you know what I mean? She should have, you know what I mean, fix that out of court, you know what I mean? But at the same time, assault is assault. But, I mean, the one he's in there now, he's being accused of, he's saying that the girl stole $100 from him, and, apparently, he choked her out and did his thing, but, apparently, that's what he's, being charged with, but shit, man, it's a delicate process when you're dealing with these women, Alex, for real.
No doubt. I was just listening to the news here in LA, and I think there's some laws. They want to make it in certain states or make it across the nation that it's possible that you could rape your own wife. Like you can get charged with raping your own wife, which is the kind of like what you were saying. It's a delicate situation. You're with someone for 2 years, 3 years, 10 years. How do you get charged for a sexual assault against somebody that you've been with for years? But because of the Me Too movement, they want women and even wives to be able to say no.
Well, I believe that if a wife got the option to say no, then I got the option to, go put this divorce proceedings in without having to lose all my shit too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If Your Honor, the wife said no, well, okay, Mr. Thornton, you should be able to keep all your shit. You know what I mean? And that's the thing about marriage. You know what I mean? A lot of these dudes and people think they want to be married so bad, but they don't understand there's other consequences to come with this shit. It's ups and downs, it's hard times, it's good times, it's bad times. You got to work through all that shit. But at the end of the day, you denying the coochie, man, that's going to be a problem in every relationship.
Well, I believe that every Christian, a woman that believes in Christianity, any good Christian wife should never say no to their husband.
No doubt. You know what I mean?
I mean, not even being a Christian, right? You just in general.
Just a wife, period.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Once you say I do, in those vows, I'll do, I do it. And if it's some certain circumstances or something, you had a surgery, you was, something like that. But on a regular basis, and it happens more frequently, though, than people think. I know couples that sleep in different beds, you know what I mean, in different rooms, you know what I mean? And it has got to that point, me particularly, like I say, and I tell all my people when it comes to these relationships, man, if you're not happy in this relationship, you got to move on. But at the same time, don't let yourself get so frustrated that you end up assaulting your girlfriend, because they do have laws that'll book your ass even when you don't feel like you're wrong. You've been paying all these bills, paying the mortgage, paying the bills, buying the groceries, and she talking about no, you know what I mean? That's offensive.
Yeah, man, that is that's definitely not a happy marriage at all. But so if Mystical in this situation ends up on a prison yard, how do you think he should be treated at this point in his in his criminal career?
Man, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. If he get caught up on this charge, Alan, they gonna give him so much time, man, that ain't nobody gonna say shit to him. You know what I mean? They ain't gonna say, they gonna look at you like you dumb motherfucker. That's how they gonna look at you, because that's how I look at him now. But I also don't know if drugs play a part in it too. I don't know if they was getting high or anything like that. You know what I mean? I did read in some site drugs may have played a part in it, you know, but at the same time, man, when you come on the yard with me with some shit like that, some sexual assault, some rape shit, you know, when it's so easy out here to get a women out here begging for dudes to come, you know, do their thing, you know, and you getting caught up taking something or being too physical or something like that. I mean, I frown upon it just based on, homie, you don't got to do that. It's they out here willing and ready. So if you let your emotions get the best of you to where I don't care if you halfway in it and she say, no, stop, bro, you gotta kind of know that that's what it is. Don't go back and ever fuck with her ever again, though. But you gotta back up off that, man. That's just how the laws work, and you know you can't let that, you know, take you down.
Now, you mentioned that this argument over $100. The LA Times has reported that Mystical and this girl, they have been in this long-term relationship for years.
Wow.
So it's kind of crazy you getting charged for a sexual assault against technically your girl.
No doubt, she did have bruises on her, allegedly. She did have bruises, but that's a domestic dispute. That's not a sexual assault. You know what I mean? And like you said, if this your girl, he may have action on that. You know that man, and I hope, like I said, I hope he do. I don't know the severity if they fought and you know what kind of injuries were sustained, but at the end of the day, man, I don't want to see the brother go out like that. But at the end of the day, you got to refrain from, you know, putting your hand on these. Well, you're gonna lose almost every time.
Yeah, this is a serious case for Mystical because he is also a convicted sex offender from the 2003 case, and that ain't gonna help this 2022
That ain't
case.
gonna help. They gonna look at you like the rest of us is looking at you.
Yeah,
bro, you out here taking it, homie. You know what I mean? So and you know, but I hate to see him in that situation, man. I like Mystical. I used to bump his music, man, and you know, hopefully he gets some daylight out of this where he can at least get back home one day.
All right, man. On that note, man, we got to wrap this episode up. Another episode of Streets and Scholars with FG and Alex Alonso, bringing you that fire. F General 1 on Instagram. Go ahead and hit him up, and FG Unleashed on YouTube. We got it. You guys got to hit him up and encourage FG to put out some more content, man, because he's got stories and stories to tell. And so if you reach out to him, I'm sure he'll do that. And hit me up, Alex Alonso 101 on all social media platforms. And I got some more content coming on the Street TV channel real soon. And thanks for listening to another fire episode of Streets and Scholars.